Millions of people dedicated to cartoon films and comics. Many events held to represent cartoons such as Comic-Cons. Millions of dollars raised for just one film. But it wasn't always like this. 1929 marked the beginning of the Depression, and very few Americans could afford to attend movies. Since most people were only focused on getting by, leisure and entertainment weren't nearly as common in the average American lifestyle. One man was determined to change this. His name was Walt Disney. Walt Disney's legacy shaped the animation industry into what it is today by introducing color, sound, and a tremendous amount of creativity. Entertaining masses of people in the midst of the Great Depression made him one of the most successful filmmakers of the 20th century, defining him as a leader in entertainment. Disney was born on December 5, 1901 in Hermosa, Illinois. Abused by his father from a young age, he was anxious to begin his career and be able to live independently. He tried to enter the war, but his age was far below the limit. Although disappointed, he quickly overcame that and knew just what he should do. He discovered his creative thinking would help him fulfill a career as a filmmaker. He was a part of many companies before he, along with his brother Roy, opened up their own company. The company suffered many bankruptcies, but managed to survive. Finally, in 1928, after many failed attempts, he produced his first film with sound called Steamboat Willie, featuring the well-known Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse became a huge success. Just a few short films later, Walt Disney was known by everyone.
I think he was an instant sensation. I think that, well, he had a hard time breaking into the business. I don't mean to say they welcomed him with open arms. He worked really, really hard and got a lot of doors slammed in his face. He was taken advantage of in the animation business. It was a cutthroat business in the 1920s when he was a young man and trying to break in. But really, from a very early stage, 1928, Steamboat Willie, his first Mickey Mouse cartoon, that was it.
The Great Depression was a worldwide economic despair. Companies often found themselves struggling to survive, and many individuals had a hard time paying for shelter and food for their families. Hard times caused the cost of animation to rise rapidly. Walt Disney's films were failing. By 1930, Disney began to lose hope and fell into a deep depression. He spoke to no one for 2 years until his brother Roy and himself came up with the idea to lower the prices of movie tickets. He offered double features and held various raffles. He was desperate for success, not only for his own benefit, but also for the benefit of others. Disney offered the masses of people a creative outlet. When the world was at its low point during the Great Depression, Walt Disney tried his best to repair the wounds of the people with his creative, funny, and engaging cartoons and films. Walt Disney created an escape for many. Ever since Walt Disney was a child, he dreamed of creating a selfless and happy world. He discovered he could create his own world inside of his films. Disney managed to overlook the dreadful events going on in the world and trapped himself in an optimistic bubble. His determination led him to discover sound and color and introduce it into the animation industry, entertaining millions of people along the way. It can be determined that because Disney did not have a very pleasant childhood, he wanted to be able to bring families together. His main goal was not to become rich and famous, it was to entertain the people and know that he made the world a happier place for children and adults, but most importantly, families. Disney's decision to add sound to a silent film in 1928 led to an amazing discovery and instant popularity. Before anyone could even think of proposing the idea, Disney had done it, and in 1933 he became the first to incorporate Technicolor. Millions of people were amazed by his discoveries. Using his new techniques, he created the first feature-length film entitled Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Over 20 million people attended the Hollywood premiere. In 1938, Disney was presented with an Oscar for the film and 7 little trophies to represent the Seven Dwarfs. Unfortunately, not long after, Walt's parents experienced a gas furnace accident and his mother died. His father survived, but he was never the same. Distracted by family matters, perhaps Walt Disney overlooked the needs of his company. Disney employees began to feel overworked and went on strike. They blocked people from entering the studio and taunted Disney as he went to work each day. This continued for 2 months until Walt and Roy decided to create and recognize a new cartoonist union, which ultimately allowed employees to better enjoy their jobs, just as Disney wanted them to. Once the strike was settled, he produced Pinocchio, Fantasia, and Bambi, which all became immediate sensations. Since the industry he established was so large, it could be interpreted that Walt Disney had a monopoly on the animation industry.
Who was going to go head to head with Disney and make feature animation in the 30s, in the 40s, in the 50s, in the 60s? You couldn't compete. He was too good. The stuff was too brilliant. And so you have other companies, I think, attempting to do something different. Warner Brothers, with their Looney Tunes, they never went into feature animation. But Looney Tunes, a 10-minute Looney Tune cost about $9,000. A 10-minute Silly Symphony, or a Mickey Mouse cartoon, Silly Symphony was another line that Disney did, cost $100,000. Same exact running time. So who's this going to look better? Who is going to spend $1.5 million on a feature animation? Nobody. Nobody.
Companies did find themselves competing with the Walt Disney Company, but mainly looked to his films for inspiration. Other companies tried to mimic his ideas. Viewers of his films were inspired by his enduring determination no matter what came in front of him.
I'm inspired by his example, of never giving up, of never settling for second best, of always going for the best no matter what it cost. And the other thing that I'm impressed with is his amazing, amazing patience and discipline. He was taken advantage of early in his career by so many people. I can't imagine why he didn't just give up.
He motivated people to see his films, visit his parks, and enjoy his work as we know it. In 1953, Disney signed a contract with ABC and created a show advertising his vision of Disneyland. And on October 27, 1954, the show premiered. It was filmed in color and had over 31 million viewers, making it one of the top 15 shows on television. His new show made children and families excited about Disneyland. After years of success, in 1961, Walt Disney began to feel weak and ill. He couldn't be at the company as much as he wanted to. He announced he was going to have Ron Miller, Disney's daughter Diane's husband, temporarily take over his spot while he recovered. Later that year, the company produced Mary Poppins, which became one of the most beloved movies ever made. The film earned over $44 million, along with 13 Academy Award nominations, 5 Oscars, including one for special visual effects. In 1964, Disney was presented with the Medal of Freedom, America's highest civilian award, from President Lyndon Johnson. Just 2 short years later, in 1966, Disney was diagnosed with lung cancer and died on December 15th at the age of only 65. Despite his relatively short life, he created unforgettable films that millions of people became attached to.
Perfect, beautiful animation. The state of the art. When you look at something like Snow White or Pinocchio, these films are so beautiful. The detail. For Pinocchio, the blue fairy has a wand and it radiates out rays, when it's doing its magic. And usually, I expect a couple little lines coming out. He hired a German experimental avant-garde animator to create patterns for the magic to come out of her wand. He paid that animator 1 year's salary. It's just beautiful. When I watch it, it blows me away.
He brought families together with his films, theme parks, and the characters he created. Today, his legacy lives on. The Walt Disney Company continues to produce amazing films. The animation industry would not be where it is today without Walt Disney. His films, amazing determination, and creative thinking made him a leader in entertainment. During the Depression, he always tried to find a way for people to see his films and put a smile on their face in times of fear and sorrow. Introducing color and sound made entertainment films a huge factor in our everyday lives. For that, he became the most successful filmmaker in the 20th century.
I only hope that we never lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a mouse.